Welcome, everybody. This is Kareen Mills, your host for the Mother Hustler podcast. And we are so fortunate today. We've got Karate Hottie, Karate
Right.
Hottie Michelle Waterson.
Oh, thank you for the introduction. I think people like saying Karate Hottie better than they do saying Michelle Waterson.
I know, I love saying the Karate Hottie. And well, welcome. Thank you so much. And, it's very casual and very organic type platform.
Of
There's not a
course.
lot of like structure. There is some questions in the end where I ask everybody in my podcast. So just hopefully you share your journey of how you got where you're at. And I'd love to start in your childhood and how that childhood, shaped you to become who you are today.
Okay. Well, I grew up in a military home. My dad was in the army, and my parents met in Germany. So my mom was fleeing Thailand, getting away from a bad relationship, and met my dad. And they ended up getting married. Moving to the States, having me, going back to Germany, having my little sister, and then coming back to the States, and that's where I grew up. I grew up in I was born in the Springs, and we grew up in Aurora, Colorado. So I have an older brother and a younger sister. So I'm the middle child, and we kind of we had a like a normal life. It was we were middle class family. Um, Blue collar, I would say. And we grew up watching Ninja Turtles and Mortal Kombat and Power Rangers. And yes, I remember being outside like playing, pretending I was my own Purple Ranger. So, um, I really wanted to get into gymnastics, but it wasn't something that my parents could afford.
Mhm.
And so one day we got a flyer on our house, and it said that there was a community martial arts, and it was just right down the street, someplace that all the kids could go walk to, and it was inexpensive. Um, so those were the two criteria. It had to be convenient, and we all had to be able to participate without breaking the bank. Um, so we did it, and we absolutely fell in love with it. My brother was super passionate about it, and I wanted to be like my brother.
Mm.
And it just became a part of our everyday life, so much so that we would compete every month in the local karate tournaments. And my dad converted our garage into a gym so we could put all of our trophies there. It became like a monthly ritual. We would go to the tournament, we'd compete, and then we'd go to like Golden Corral and eat dinner and like talk about our competition, and talk about what we did good and talk about what we did bad and what we can do better. And so that just became my life. And I fell in love with martial arts because it gave me a voice. I
Mm.
I I'm the middle child. I was the peacekeeper in the family. I was a peacekeeper at school. I always wanted everybody to be happy, and a lot of times that resulted in me kind of getting taken advantage of, in the sense where everybody thought, well, Michelle, Michelle do it, or they just, stepped all over me, or overlooked me because I was just too nice.
Mm.
And so I found, like, in my teenage years, you know, I think it's just kind of a really hard time for a lot of young women,
Mm.
because you're trying to find yourself. You're trying to
Mm.
figure out where you belong, in the world of high school, or in your social arena, or whatever. And, I wasn't developed. I was still wearing training bras in high school. I remember getting picked on because the boys would try to snap my bra, and there was no snap because it wasn't a real bra. It was a training bra. And so I I was lost, and I had zero confidence, and martial arts is what gave me that confidence. Martial arts is what gave me the voice. Martial arts is what gave me the foundation to be
Mm,
comfortable in my own skin and to be comfortable with who I was
mm,
and even now who I am. So I knew that I wanted to be a part of my life. I just didn't know how. And I thought that I had to do all these steps and it might be cultural too, like especially like growing up in a traditional like Asian culture.
mhm,
um, you're expected to get good grades, you're expected to be a certain way as a female, Asian girl, a female Asian girl. And, so it's like, well, you have to get good grades and then you have to go to college and then you have to get married and then you have to have
mhm.
children and you have to have a house with a white picket fence and 3 kids. And so that's what I thought I had to do. And I says, okay, so I'm going to go to college. And I was not happy. I couldn't breathe. It felt like I couldn't
Wow.
think. I felt like I just was out of place.
Wow.
And so I said, let me go back to what makes me happy, which is martial arts.
Mm,
And I took a semester off of college, and my mom and I went to Thailand to visit family because my grandmother was sick. And while we were there, I decided to study Muay Thai because why not? We're in Thailand. And I absolutely loved it. And it reminded me of what made me happy.
mm.
And so I said, F it. And I stopped going to college and I pursued a fight career.
Does it make you feel like at home when you're doing that?
Yeah. Um, you know, they say if you pick a job that makes you happy, it doesn't feel like a job. And
Mhm.
that's exactly what martial arts is. It's been a part of my life for so long. It's something that I enjoy doing when I go to practice and I learn a new technique. Um, I enjoy that. I enjoy teaching children. I enjoy teaching my cardio kickboxing class because it's fun. And when I see my clients sweating out of exhaustion, I get a thrill out of that. When I land a proper technique, I get a thrill out of that. When I fail, even though it sucks, um,
Mhm.
it makes me feel like I am progressing. I don't know if that makes any sense. It just
Yeah.
makes me feel like I'm forcing myself to do something uncomfortable.
Hmm. I watch an interview with Garen Jones. I don't know if you follow him, but he talks about our inner child. It's connected straight to the source.
Hmm.
And when we are a child, we want to do all these things. And then when we grow up, our influence outside of, our childhood world, it starts it starts numbing us. It starts changing us, and we let go of those aspirations as a child when if all you do as an adult is go back to those aspirations as a child, it's really just the answer. It's simple as that. And I hear that loud and clear in your journey.
Yeah, and I definitely would have to say it really is easier said than done. Like we sit here and we say that we want to pursue our dreams as children, but when you become adult, there are a lot of things that you're not prepared for, responsibilities, the day-to-day grind, children, you
Yeah.
know, becoming a wife, having to adult, you know, having to take care of yourself, no one to wash your clothes for you, no one to cook dinner for you.
Oh, I know.
Those are things that get in the way of your childhood dreams.
Yes. I tell my kids all the time, I have two boys, and I go, oh, I just want my mommy right now. And they just laugh because
Uh,
they never think of you because they see you as like you can do it all. And then
yes.
you get frustrated and they just laugh when I say, I wish I have my mommy right now.
Yeah, because, our moms will always be our moms, just like our babies will always be our babies.
Yeah. So congratulations on winning the UFC 229. was a good
Thank
fight.
you. Thank you so much.
You said something that really gave me courage to reach out to you, and said, I want to be the first mom, because there's not a lot of mom fighters. And I think, like you said, it gets in the way. And
Mm-hmm.
I think when you are a mother hustler, you don't allow anything to get in the way. You can be, and I see your profile, you say you're a loving mom, and you can be the best mom, but also not lose sight of your dreams. And that's really the definition of, like, the simplest definition of a mother hustler for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it stands for, is you still have your identity and you still go after your dreams.
Yeah,
So you said that you wanted to be that first mom that has the championship belt.
I would love
Tell
that.
me more. Tell me more.
You know, it's weird because I wasn't planning on saying that, but it's been a thought in my mind for a really long time, and it's kind of scary to say it out loud, because now everybody knows, you know, and
Mhm.
it's kind of like, well, put your money where your mouth is. But why not? Why not say it out loud and go for my dream and enjoy it? Enjoy this ride that I'm on. I just feel like when you become a parent, so much of your energy shifts from yourself to your children. And rightfully so, because they're your children, they're your everything. Um, but I also think that there's a lot to be said about pursuing your own passions, pursuing your own dreams, for your children, because your children learn through what they see.
Mhm.
And yes, it's important to put energy into them, but it's also important to be a good example for them. And um, when you have a dream and you give it up because your children, what message are you sending to them?
Yep.
You know, is that a uh, I mean, it's kind of like a double-edged sword, like when I talk about it, because you do want to give your children everything, but your children learn through your actions. And
Mhm.
if your action is to have this dream but not pursue it because you had them, then does that teach them to just give up halfway?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And it's kind of like one of those things, like it's a harder road to take, but I think it's more rewarding in the
Mhm. I always remember the things my mom showed me
end.
versus the things that my mom told me to do.
Hmm.
And I think that telling has a tendency to sound like a nagging. And as kids, I never listened to those nagging, you know, it's like
Exactly. Well, you don't do it.
I know.
Well, you don't even do it, Mom. What do you make? What makes you think I do what I say, not what I do?
Yeah, because I say so.
Yeah, because I said so. That's why.
So you have a daughter.
Uh-huh.
Is she following your path with martial arts? Is she doing classes with you? And I love moms that do their work
Hmm.
side by side. They're being mother.
Araya has always been with me, and it's funny to say that because I think it really shocks people. Like, wow, you let Araya watch you fight. Like, that's kind of scary, don't you think? But no, like she's a part of it. She's a part of my journey, and I think that's kind of what motivates her, is that she knows that she's a part of it. She's a part of my team. Um, since before she was born, I was training with her in my belly, you know? Um, so it's important because I think to normalize,
Mm-hmm.
um, to normalize my career, I think is important. For her to think that it's normal to be on the biggest stage of, that you could be, to bring her to the T-Mobile Arena and take her inside the cage and say, this is mommy's work, you know? to take her to the gym and for her to see me training with Holly Holm and John Jones and John Dotson and Coach Winklejohn and Coach Jackson, and for me to be talking to them like they are my teammates and coworkers, because they are, and for it to be normal, I think gives her a sense of, I think, I don't know, because I'm not living in her shoes, but I would hope that it makes it easier for her to have a goal or a passion or a dream, and um, to take action and to see that it's not all sunshine and rainbows, that you are going to fall and you are going to fail and you are going to break your nose and break your hand and you're going to have setbacks and you're going to have losses, but that doesn't stop you from continuing to grind.
Yeah, I think they're necessary. I always call failure as feedback on steroids because we learn so much when we lose. We learn so much by losing, but it's great to win. That's how you become a great winner too. That's how you get to winning is falling and getting knocked out. And I mean, life in general knocks you out, not physically, but mental knockout is even worse than physical knockout. So,
Oh, yes, 100%.
talk about your journey in terms of failure, because I think people see the glory a lot, because it's like shiny things. It looks shiny. It looks easy. You make it look easy, right? But it's not. I know it's not. It's
No, not at all.
hard work, determination, passion, and so much more even.
Mm-hmm. Well, it really is like a roller coaster, and fighting is one of those things. It's like it's an addiction, right? You have these incredible highs that you can ride, but they're also very, very deep lows, and you have to be able to roll with the punches when those hit, and you know, life is going to happen with those adversities, whether you accept them or not. So I think it's important to not necessarily embrace the adversities, but to accept them as challenges. If you're like, all right, come on, come get it, instead of, no, please don't, don't come get me. It's just like your mindset. If you change your mindset as like, it being a challenge and you rising to the occasion to that challenge and overcoming that challenge versus you shying away from it. And I compare it a lot to fights. When a lot of times when people get knocked out, it's because they're afraid of the punch or they're pulling from the punch. And they, even in their mind, they think they're guarded because their hands are up, but they're doing this. You're actually putting yourself in more danger because you're being defensive. You have a defensive mindset rather than an offensive mindset. And so it's the same in life, right? If you're pulling away from the punches in life, it's going to knock you down even harder than if you're biting down on your mouthpiece and saying, come on, come get it,
Yeah, that's true. It really is a journey, like you said. It's not easy. What are the advice you can give to young girls that look up to you, that wants to be the next Michelle Waterson? Obviously they have to work hard. They've got a lot of work to do. What is that piece of advice? And it could be several of advice that you can give them.
I think there's a lot of things, but the biggest thing is to be consistent and be persistent, because it's easy to go all out one day. It's like, man, I'm going to give it my all today. But can you do that for a week? Can you do that for a month? Can you do that for an entire training camp? Can you do that for an entire year? Can you do that for a decade? Because that's how long I've been fighting, and I've barely scratched the surface.
Wow.
So it's like, I think especially in today's day and age where everything is so instantaneous, like you get things immediately on your social media with Grubhub, with all these things. You can like basically snap your fingers and have whatever you want in front of you. Success whether people want to believe it or not, does not come that easily.
Hmm.
Um, and a lot of people might think so because all they see, like you said, is the glory, the finished product, you know. And there's a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes that nobody sees, which is the actual journey. And you have to stay consistent. You can't just think that one day of hard work is going to get you where you want to be. You know, it's decades of work.
Wow. And how often in the last decade do you train? Is that like a daily?
Yeah,
Um,
like we said, my martial arts is a way of life, you know. So,
wow.
um, especially with fighting, if you're talking about young women who want to pursue fighting, is you're never going to stop learning and you're never going to be the best. The minute you think you know everything is the minute you're going to get put on your back real
Wow.
quick. And and that's the beauty of it too. Is like you're always a student, and the same should go with life. You should always be learning. You should never think that you have it all under control because you definitely don't.
No, we have very, very little control. And
Exactly.
they always say if you want to make God laugh, create a plan.
Right, right. It's like nope, that's not where we're going today.
So what's the worst thing that's ever happened to you? And what did you learn about that?
I think there has been a couple of big setbacks. I would say the hardest one, which is probably the most recent,
Mm,
was when so I was champ in the 105 division, and then I lost my belt. Um, and when I lost my belt, I was lost. I didn't know what to do, and I almost felt like a part of myself was missing. And so
mm,
my husband and I talked about it, and we said let's go up in weight and let's give this UFC thing a try. And it was a risk, right? Because I was fighting at 105, moving up to 115, fighting bigger girls.
wow.
But I knew that if I was going to do this, if I was going to make this jump, that there wasn't going to be any excuses. There wasn't going to be, oh, well, she's bigger than me, that's why I lost. No, like if you're going to go to this division, you're going to go and you have to go in confidently enough to know that you can make it to the top. So, you know, I thought about it for a little bit and I said, let's go, let's do it. Um, and so I go from this again, it's like a roller coaster, right? This incredible high, and then back down to this super low, and then incredible high, get signed to the UFC. Um, and then I have this amazing performance, and I win the fight via submission, and I'm just on this incredible high. I break my hand in the fight, second round. Didn't even know it. My glove comes off, and my hand's just swollen. But at this moment, it doesn't even matter because I am on cloud nine. I just won my UFC debut. You know, everything's looking up. So we let it heal, and I take another fight. And um, 2 weeks before my fight, I break my hand in the same
Again.
spot. Yep, again in the same
Wow.
spot. And so I'm kind of like, all right, you know, this is the fight game. This thing things like this happen, whatever. Like there are other things you can do. So I kind of chalk it up to it happening. My hand heals. I take another fight. Again, 2 weeks before my fight. My hand breaks. My hand my hand breaks 3 times within a year and a half. And at this point, I'm just devastated because after a year, the UFC doesn't pay for your medicals because it's considered out of competition.
Mm,
So not only have I been training for a year and a half without any income, but now I'm costing my family money. I'm still away from my daughter because I'm training because my husband believes in me so much that he's like, babe, don't worry about it. You continue to train. You know, I'll hold down the fort. I'll make the money and all this stuff. But I can't help but feel like I'm taking away from my family, you know? I can't help but feel that I'm being selfish because here I am, I'm not even bringing money into my family. I'm training, I'm away from my family, and then I break my hand again, and I'm costing my family money because of medicals. So I just like have this huge breakdown. My daughter was actually there at the gym when my I broke my hand for the third time. And I run to the bathroom because I don't want her to see me cry, and I'm crying. And she comes in and
Mm.
she sees me crying. I'm like sitting on the floor, like with my hands like trying to cover my face, and she like pulls my hands down, and she's like wiping my tears away.
Oh,
And she's like, "Did you break your hand again, mommy?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I'm like crying, and she's like, "It's okay. You'll get better, and you'll get back in the cage." So like just her telling me that, like how I don't know, I just it's just for me, like at that moment it was like I knew that she was there for me. I knew that it wasn't like, oh, you hurt, you can do something else. She knew how much I loved this, you know, and I feel like at that moment is what gave me the hunger to want to actually fight, and it gave me a why, I guess.
wow.
But I do think that was the lowest because I felt like, God, is this your way of telling me that I shouldn't be fighting? Is this your way of telling me that maybe I should step back and, take care of my family and go get a regular job so that I can spend more time with my daughter and this and that? And, there were points when I remember talking to my husband and saying, I'm going to stop fighting. I'm going to take a normal job. Like, it's been a year, and nothing's getting better. And
Wow.
my husband just looking at me and telling me, babe, you are going to be the champ. And
Wow.
you need to believe that. And you need to not stop.
That's awesome. You guys' relationship just like so impressive to me. Um, it, it's really, they always say that professional success is going to compensate for a failure at home.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that your foundation is so strong with Josh and your family and your daughter supporting you and giving you that oomph that you need when you were so down there and giving you that support. But that really gave me goosebumps because our kids have this tendency to, they never lie,
Yeah.
and they have that pure soul and they always tell you the truth. And I think if as adults we do the same thing to fellow women, to fellow moms, to even our husbands, our spouses, it would make so much difference, don't you think?
I do. And like Josh talks about it all the time because people, um, I mean, when we have get togethers with our families, with his boys, with his friends, they're like, aren't you afraid when Araya gets older? Like, and she has a boyfriend. And I mean, it is scary. I don't even want to think about like her rebellious years. But what I am confident in is the fact that she sees our relationship, and that, again, going back to our actions, is like she sees the way that Josh treats me, and she's not going to settle for anything less because she knows what she can have.
Wow. Yeah. I met my husband at UFC 52. So we're
Oh,
like
really?
UFC lovers. We love the UFC. Our first son, his name is Caden and it means fighter. It's an American name, means fighter. So we just adore the UFC. It's gotten a lot bigger than it used to be,
Mm-hmm.
where there was like only a fight every quarter or a fight every other month, but now there's
Mm-hmm.
a ton of fights almost every 2 weeks.
Yes, that's
But
awesome.
yeah,
So
so how did
did he hit on you or what?
no, it was Chuck Liddell and Randy Couture. And Chuck won that fight. So we were actually on the Vegas Strip. There was, I forgot the name of the club. It was Chuck Liddell's victory party, and they crashed it. So that's where I met him.
Wow, how funny.
So how did you and Josh met? How did you guys meet?
I just think it was destiny, really. We kept running into each other, and his boys kept trying to, pump him up because he's really shy.
Mm.
And he says it was only with me. He says with any other girl, it was easy for him to talk, but with me, it was a little hard. So, um, and we'd run into each other here, and then nothing would ever happen, and then a couple months later we'd run into each other again, and finally I think it just it was meant to be. I was downtown being a DD for one of my friends, and he was there with some of his friends, and his friend called me over, and I didn't recognize them, and I was like, they kept saying my name, like, who is this guy? So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna walk over. I guess they know me because they're calling my name. So I walk over, and his friend's like, yeah, I'm moving to Colorado. You don't remember us, but we used to always go hang out at your job. And then I was like, well, I used to live in Colorado. If you need anybody to show you around, like, I'll introduce you to some of my friends. So his friend was like, well, I don't have my phone on me, so you should put your phone number in my friend's phone. And and then Josh was already standing there with his phone waiting like this. So I ended up giving him my phone number, and he was laughing because he said, you don't remember me, do you? And I just told him, am I supposed to? And he said, yeah, because I was a waitress. And he was like, yeah, you said if you ever saw me downtown that you'd remember my name and that you saved me a dance. And I was like, oh, dang, I did say that, but I don't remember your name. I'm sorry. And he's just like, it's Josh. And I said, all right, well, come find me for a dance. And then he texted me to make sure that I didn't give him the wrong phone number, and then left. So
Wow.
He left me hanging.
Confirmed it. Confirmed the number. Make sure.
Exactly.
Well, that means you're the right one. If you're the only one that he's shy about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you're kind of intimidating,
I don't think
fighter.
so.
Fighter.
Nobody even knows that I'm a fighter. People are like, what?
That's so cool. So I watched your interview with Lewis House. Lewis is a teacher of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And you talked a lot about the tough time that you guys had when you were training, and Josh's father was involved in car accident.
Yeah.
How is he now, and how is that going, and how did that affect you?
It's hard because in those situations, there's so much that you want to do. But you can't. It's really, like you said, like, it's out of your control. Even with him, he has always been the type of man who, if he wants something done, he'll get up and do it. He doesn't talk much, but he is a very outgoing person, and he loves to, I don't know how to explain it. He's not real expressive, but he is very outgoing, if that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. Maybe what I'm trying to get at is, as far as any of his weaknesses, he's not expressive about it, because culturally, I think in a lot of Latin cultures, you just don't talk about your downfalls. You don't talk about your weaknesses. You get it done.
Yeah.
And with his injury, he can't do that. Like, he can't connect his brain to his body. And so in his mind, he wants to just get up and start walking, and he can't. And that's probably the most frustrating part for him. And, some days are easier than others. And his progress is very slow, but it's still progress. And I think that's the biggest thing, is like, he's just frustrated. And I think at times, because it's a day-to-day grind for him, he doesn't see his progress. So you can become frustrated and almost hopeless,
Yeah.
So I almost feel like it's not my place to say anything
Mm,
because I'm not going through what he's going through.
okay.
But all I've been able to tell him is that um, your mind is a powerful, powerful tool, and um, if you allow it, and if you stay stuck in your mind, you can.
Mm,
I mean, there are thoughts that brew in your mind that can be the end of you, if you allow it.
it's
And so
true.
I was just trying to tell him like um, to to not let those thoughts win.
Yeah.
You know.
It's very true. There's an interview that Lewis did for Joe Dispenza, and it was titled like something about your mind can heal you.
Hmm.
And I listened to it, and he talks about a lot about, like, how we have like medical issues that's stress related,
Of course.
and stress comes from the mind, right? Because
Hmm.
if we think about it, we dwell on things, we start reacting on things, and that he says that if your mind can make you sick, your mind can also heal you. And I love that you believe in that, because I think a lot of sports figure like yourself, athletes, use their mind a lot. How do you condition your mind before a fight? What do you tell yourself?
I think mental practice is just as, if not more important than physical practice. I mean, the two really do go hand in hand. You can physically be in the best shape of your life, but if you doubt your abilities, then it's all for nothing, really. And so you have to really train your mind to connect with your body. You have to train your mind to control your thoughts, because I don't know where they come from, but they're always going to be negative thoughts, and for some reason the negativity and the doubt always sounds louder than anything that's positive, and I really don't know why that is. It's uh but it is what it is, and you have to really work on having positive thoughts. And so for me, I have a sports psychologist, and we meet
Mhm.
once a week. But outside of meeting with him once a week, I do mental practices in the morning and at night.
Mm,
And depending on where at in my fight camp I am, it depends on the type of mental practice. So sometimes it's to strengthen my confidence.
mhm,
Sometimes it's just to lace through um, physical movements with my confidence. I don't know if that makes sense, but
mhm,
if I can't do it physically, then I'm going to practice it in my mind mentally. So
mm,
much so, like I can't physically fight Felice. The when you're in the gym, I have training partners, but they're not Felice.
mm,
You have training partners that you get so used to that you know what they're gonna do, and so you're able to break down their habits, and then you can kind of game plan for your teammates because you know what they're gonna do. In a fight, you don't know what they're gonna do. They can be getting ready for something different. Yeah, you can watch tape, but you've never physically felt them. You've never felt them put their weight up against you. You've never felt how hard they hit. You never felt how they move. And so the only way to prepare yourself is to mentally have a picture in your head of what they're doing. And
mm. Wow.
I feel like if you have a good enough imagination, you don't just visualize it, but you you visualize it, you see it, you smell it, you feel it, you breathe it, and it becomes reality.
Mm, wow. That same interview with Joe Dispenza, he talks about how football players create this movie in their mind.
Mm-hmm.
They won the Super Bowl, and that's it, it's already happened. And I learned something so profound in that interview, that he says that your mind doesn't know the difference between what's happening and what you're telling it that's already happened.
Yes.
It's super powerful. And so I'm hearing that through the stuff you're just telling me, that you probably, I wonder if you learned it from your sports psychologist, because it is, I didn't know that the mind does not know what's happening out there, that you can actually tell it that it's happening. It thinks that it's already happened. It thinks that it's already, you're already winning your UFC belt, you know?
Of course, yes. If you practice, it takes practice, and it's easier said than done. And I think that's why too, a lot of times those negative thoughts in your mind can take over, and because if you let your negative thoughts take over, then that's what. Have you ever had a bad day and you're like, why? Why does when it rains it pours? Why does when you wake up and stub your toe, then you run out of toothpaste and you get in a car accident on your way to work, and it's just like a steam, it's like it's just a chain
Snowball.
reaction. Exactly, it's a
Yeah.
snowball effect, and it's because you're already in a bad mood and your mind's controlling. It's like, God, I'm having such a bad day. Well, okay, you're gonna have a bad day if you're saying you're having a bad day, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, it's easier said than done.
It's a practice.
Yeah, but the idea is to be in control of your mind.
Yep. What are the lessons that you learned from your mother growing up, and that now you are applying to your parenting?
My mom is just like a really hardcore Asian, old school, traditional mom. She's very critical, and I
Is she blunt? Because my dad like calls me out. Your leg's too big. You need to lose weight. Like that's
yeah,
how my
Michelle, you're so fat. Come eat some food. Or she gonna beat you. You better put your hand up. She gonna beat you up, and like she's very critical, and that's just how I grew up.
Mm,
But growing up for me, it was motivation to be like, to show her, no, like I'm gonna win. Like for me, I used it as motivation.
mhm,
Um, but I do think that it did, like, I'm not gonna lie, I think it put a chip on my shoulder, and it
mhm.
made me feel like I had to prove to her, not only to her but to the world, what my capabilities were. And so um for me personally, I think that's something that I've gained from her parenting. um my mom has always been very um like I said, competitive, and very, I don't want to say judgmental, but in a way, kind of, yeah, like judgmental in like in the sense where there was always something that I could do better,
Mhm.
you know? And so trying to relay that in this day and age as a parent myself, I am always encouraging Araya to go for it, but
Mhm.
to also not settle. Um,
Mm.
and I feel like also something that I've learned from my mom is to kind of have tough skin,
Mm.
The world is not um it's not a kind place,
Mm-mm.
When you go to school, kids are mean. Kid,
Mhm.
they have zero filter. And especially nowadays with social media, people just think that they can do and say whatever they want because there's no accountability. They're talking to you through a screen, and so they're not looking at you in your eyes. So I do think that something that my mom has instilled with me is to have tough skin, and that's something that I try to instill in Araya, is that you know um, don't worry about what other people in this world think of you or say of you, um, because if you know who you are,
Mhm.
and you're comfortable and you're happy with that, and you know that the people that you care about love you, then that's all that should matter.
Mm. It's weird how our parents, the Asian parents they really do use negative reinforcement. And the weirdest part is it works for us,
Well,
Asian kids.
I think it really depends on the person, because my sister is like rebellious, like same parenting style,
Oh,
but
wow.
my sister is like, oh, you think I'm gonna be bad? Okay, well, I will be bad, and then she'll go off and do some bad stuff, So it really does depend, I think, on the individual.
And how you react. Huh?
Exactly.
That
Exactly.
is so cool. What is your message to Aria?
I just I want her to be a good person. I want her to um embrace every moment that she has, and to enjoy the little things, to understand the difference between um having material things and having, actual things in your life that you love and care about, and can take with you wherever you go, like memories, like feelings of love, like feelings of accomplishment. I want her to distinguish the difference between those things, and just to be a good person, to understand that um, by giving, you receive, and that I mean I think the biggest thing is it's the golden rule, right? Treat other people the way you want to be treated. And I think if there's anything that she has or will learn from me, it would be that, is that you treat people how you want to be treated.
Yeah, that's awesome. Would you send the same message to yourself as a child?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something my dad used to always tell me. Something my dad used to always tell me too is that to go after your dreams, don't let anybody get in your way, even yourself. And I think that last part was the biggest thing, because I could see a lot of regret in both of my parents' life, like in their career choices, in their life in general, is that they had a lot of regret in some of the choices that they made.
Wow. Isn't that powerful how we learn from our parents too so much with the outcome that they have currently? I'm the same way. My parents is in that same boat. But we show our kids that things don't have to be perfect. We just have to do it and take a step.
Yeah, it is crazy. And it's kind of like what you said earlier. Our kids, they don't see us as humans, they see us as mom and dad, and
Right.
mom and dad are there always, and mom and dad don't, like mom and dad don't make mistakes because they're mom and dad, but the truth is we are human, and everybody makes mistakes.
Yes. What's your message to Josh?
That I love him and I couldn't do it without him.
Wow.
I really couldn't. I mean, it's a team, you know. I think it's so amazing how he allows me to pursue my dream and to be the woman I am without feeling any type of way, without holding anything over me. Um, you know, he wants me. He wants me to be happy.
That's wonderful. I love that. You are a great example to a lot of little girls. You are a great example to a lot of women and a lot of mom, and most importantly, you guys' relationship, because there's a lot of, like, even growing up watching my dad controlled a lot of the things that my mom could or could not do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think my drive as a woman too comes from that, where sometimes I don't even and I'll be the first one to admit that sometimes I don't listen to my husband. Sometimes I forget I have a husband.
You're like, hold on, who are you?
And I just like, I just want to I'm independent. I just want to make my own.
Yeah.
But it's really refreshing to see your relationship with your husband. So that's also a great example for a lot of married couple, is that, supporting each other throughout your dreams is so important. I mean, he confirmed your appointments. He's doing all the behind the scene work, and He's allowing you to be great at what you are great at. And then he picks up the pieces behind it. Ah, I love that. It's
Yeah,
so super amazing.
he's a good one. I got a good guy. Yeah, and you know what? It was hard for me, and I would have it's probably because of stuff that I've seen in my parents' relationship, and hard for me to feel like um to let go of a bit of my guard, you know,
Yeah.
because I feel like my parents kind of resented each other in certain ways, and um I feel like it partly it's because, you know, my dad would always tell me like you can do everything on your own. Don't ever feel like you need, you know, anybody's help. Don't ever ask for anybody's help. You can do it all on your own.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got in this relationship with Josh, it was like, I don't need your help. I can do it on my own. And like it was really, and he would always be like, what do you mean like your own? Like we're like, it's not you, me, it's us. Like this is our relationship. This is our life. This is our family. And that's how I see it. It's not you, me, it's us. And it would break his heart because I would be like, well, you and me, and he like he just didn't understand. And it didn't mean that I loved him any less. It was just the way that I was raised.
Conditioned. We're
And
conditioned different.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until finally it was like I kind of just like let down that wall and I literally fell. You know, I fell and he caught me and we've been riding together, you know.
Ride or die. Is
Yeah.
your ride or die? That's so cool. Well, before I let you go, I want to commend you for all the examples you're setting out there in the world for how you show up in this world is super important. I think that I can see that you've had a lot of, you know, lows because you wouldn't be in this high without those lows because they are very necessary. And I want to thank you for your time. I appreciate a lot of the things that you're doing. I mean, it's amazing what you've done in the last decade. So congratulations on everything that you've accomplished in the last decade. Thank
Thank
you
you so
so
much.
much. You're
No, thank
welcome.
you, and thank you for allowing me to share my story. I know I talk a lot.
Hey, I love that because I do too, but I've learned how to, like this journey in the podcasting world, it really teaches you how to listen, especially when you don't have a structure, because I
Yeah.
extract all the questions from your stories,
Hmm.
you know. Where can we find you? Where can my audience and my listeners find you? I'm sure it's pretty easy with a Karate Hottie, but I just want to make sure that you leave us those information before we let you go and ask you the last question that I
Uh-oh. Well, I'm most active on my Instagram, and my handle is Karate Hottie MMA. But my husband did just work really hard putting our website together, and so if you go on the website, there's like tons of pictures. There's links to all my social media, and we're selling some merchandise. So go ahead and you can go to the website, and I think it's MichelleWatersonMMA.com.
have.
MichelleWatersonMMA.com. My husband's like, yes, get it right.
I'll put it on the podcast notes too. So don't
Okay. Yeah, and you know, that's it.
That's awesome. When is your next fight?
I don't have anything scheduled yet. I think I'm gonna take some time to come back to mom land and clean up my house.
Clean up the mess. I was just showing someone my groceries are not out of the bag and then I've got dishes all over the sink. Cool. Well, last question. What is your definition, like the Michelle Waterson definition of the word mother hustler? And when you first heard that word, what comes to mind?
I would say to have a deep confidence in who you are without having to explain yourself to anybody.
Hmm.
That's what I think a mother hustler is, and it truly is. Like being a mother is one of the hardest jobs, but you never hear a mom complaining about it because it's their job and it's what they love to do, you know? So They just hustle and they do it, and they do it in style.
That's awesome, sister. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. I will let you guys know when I put this thing live, but I appreciate you a lot. Thank
Thank
you.
you. That was
Thank Josh
awesome.
for me too.
I will.
Bye.
We'll see you later.